Well, hello, good evening, good night, wherever you are, and welcome to another episode of the Spaghetti Westerns podcast. I'm Tom Betts, your host. This is number 103. It's season 5, episode 3. We're going to talk about several things today. We're going to talk about continue our history of the Spaghetti Westerns with Road to Fort Alamo, and then we'll talk about whatever became of Ken Clark, who was the star of the Road to Fort Alamo. The Who Are Those Guys section, we'll talk about Leo Anchóriz. And the film of the week will be Five Man Army. We've got some posters, CD and LP of the week, and then we'll wrap things up with the news of the week. Just obits this week. There were no books, CDs, or videos released, so it's just obits. Anyways, let's get started and we'll talk about the Road to Fort Alamo. Road to Fort Alamo, the Italian title was Arizona Bill. The French title was La Strada per Fort Alamo and Arizona Bill. Also, the French title is Il était une fois la mort. And the USA title is The Road to Fort Alamo. This is a Italian-French co-production directed by John W. Old. Who is that? It's Mario Bava using an alias. Story is by Vincent Thomas, whose real name is Lorenzo Guicapali. Screenplay is by Jane Brisbane, real name is Livia Cantardi. And Vincent Thomas, again Lorenzo Guicapali. And Charles Prick, real name is Franco Prosperi. Cinematography is by Bud Third, whose real name is Ubaldo Terzan, and Mario Bava. It's in Eastman color and total scope. Music is by Piero Umiliani, and there is a main theme song, The Road to Fort Alamo, sung by Tony Wendell. This thing runs 82 minutes, so it's pretty short. And as you can see, they tried to disguise it as an American film with the English titles, the English aliases for names. The cast in this, all familiar really. Bill Mannerly, or Bud Massady, also known as Lieutenant John Smith, and Arizona Bill was played by Ken Clark. Janet is played by Jenny Clare. Little Kid Carson, played by Michelle Lemoyne. Mrs. Collins is played by Andrina Paul. Private Jim Slim Kincaid, played by Kirk Burt. Captain Hull or Hollis is played by Anthony Gradwell. Mr. Silva or Silvers, played by Gerard Herder. And the story goes as such. Bud Massady, played by Ken Clark, is returning from the Civil War. He comes across a slaughtered army troop carrying an order to the Bank of Wagon City to hand over $150,000 for army wages. After running into resistance with the corrupt citizens of the town, Bud decides to take the money for himself. He joins with a local gang of outlaws, and dressed in the dead soldiers' uniforms, they rob the bank. Things go as planned when Carson Michelle Lemoyne, the gang leader, turns out to be a crazed killer, and after being left beaten and unconscious by the gang, Bud and his new friend Slim, played by Alberto Severini, are found by another passing army unit and taken in as one of their own. Now posing as soldiers are heroes, ? Opportunities for escape become complicated by a voluptuous redhead named Janet, played by Jenny Clare, and the crazed Carson turning up again with the bank's money and a tribe of unhappy Indians on his trail. Bud redeems his sins with heroic and altruistic behavior. Bud manages to gain the esteem of his new companions and the love of Janet. Slim, on the other hand, suffers a different fate. Almost the entire cast in this is comprised of actors whose faces will become regulars in the genre. during the rest of the 1960s and 70s. According to Michel Lemoyne, who played the role of Little Kid Carson, who spoke about his work with Bava, stating that Bava was an extraordinary director and he needed all of his talent to get through the film because it was really difficult. The producers had many money problems with that picture, and Bava had to fight constantly. Bava shows none of the ingenuity or imagination of his later horror films. This looks more like a John Ford / John Wayne cavalry film with a strict by the book commanding officer copied from Henry Ford's portrayal of Fort Apache and Henry Fonda. You also had the red-haired Johnny Clare, which brings thoughts of Maureen O'Hara and Alberto Savinini, Jim Kincaid, who makes one think of Harry Carey Jr. Bava tries to make the quarry outside of Rome look like Monument Valley, but it's all for naught. Only the night scenes filmed at Elio Studios with their excellent lighting setup give the film an unreal ambience about it. This is also the case with the cave scenes, of which there are a number, and which suggested to the more of a peplum feel than Western one. Piero Umiliani, one of the great composers of the genre's score, is pedestrian at best, and although suitable, is far from anything he would compose later in the genre. Some trivia and goofs in the film. We see Demos Philos is credited as art director. This is actually an alias for Demofilio Fadani, and the costume design is by Mila Vance, which is Mila Vitelli Valenza, Fadani's wife and actress Simone Blondel's mother. Look for an obvious use of a double for Ken Clark in the action scenes, as Clark has blonde hair and the double has black hair. I don't know why this isn't picked up more by the directors or the cameramen, but it happens in a number of genre films. The color of the horses the soldiers ride also change color as they ride in and out of scenes. As far as actor bios, we'll get into Ken Clark in a minute, but Janet, played by Jeannie Claire. Jeannie Claire was born Jeannie Guillaume in Lille, France on September 2nd, 1938. A veteran of peplum and sword and sandal films, she would appear in 30 films between 1957 and 1966. This was her only Western experience. She would appear again with Clark in FX Secret Agent the same year. After her last film appearance, she retired, and whatever became about her is unknown. Little Kid Carson is played by Michel Lemoyne. Michel Charles Lemoyne was born in Pantin, Saint-Denis, France on September 30th, 1922. Like Ken Clark, he was a model and then became a theater actor, and then concentrated on a film career in the early 1960s. In the 70s, he drifted into soft and hardcore porn films. During his entire career, he also directed over 24 films. Lemoyne was married to actress Jeanine Reynaud, who was born in 1930 and died in 2018, and then actress Nakase Jean-Louis. He may be best remembered by spaghetti western fans for his performance as Eli Kane in 1968's Cemetery Without Crosses, starring Robert Hossein. Lemoyne died in Vignon, Cher, France on July 27, 2013. He was 90 years old. Also in the film, we have Private Jim Slim Kincaid, played by Kirk Burt. His real name is Alberto Savinini, and various sources say he was born in Rome either in 1935 or 1941. He was the nephew of the opera singer Elisabetta Barbato, born in 21 and died in 2014. After graduating from the CSC Academy, he became a theater actor before making his screen debut in the 1961 film La Revolta dei Mercenari, The Revolt of the Mercenaries, in the role of Alessandro. He'd go on to appear in some 30 films, usually in historical, western, and spy films, sometimes billed as Kirk Burt, Anthony Ross, or Charlie Anderson. He appeared in 6 Euro westerns, such as Minnesota Clay, where he played Andy Barr, Fort Yuma Gold, with Juliana Gemma as a bandit, and in Up the McGregors. Alberto died on August 6, 1975, in Rome. Captain Hull or Captain Hollis was played by Anthony Gradwell, whose real name is Antonio Gradoli. He was born in Rome in 1917. Most likely he's passed away, but I can find no reference to his passing. He was previously covered in episode number 35. Mr. Silver was played by Gerard Herder. Herder was born on April 12, 1920 in Stuttgart, Germany, and died on February 6, 2007 in Munich, Germany at the age of 86. He was previously covered in episode 35. Okay, now let's move on to whatever happened to, and that is Ken Clark. We'll get into Okay, Kenneth Donovan Clark was born in Nephs, Ohio on June 4th, 1927. I'm from Ohio originally and have no idea where Nephs, Ohio is or was, but it was across the border from Wheeling, West Virginia, so it's in the central eastern part of the state. Anyway, Ken grew up on a farm with no electricity or telephone. The family's transportation were a wagon and horses. He joined the Navy when he was 17 during World War II, and after his honorable discharge, followed in his father's footsteps as a coal miner. He moved to California in 1955 and found work as a bulldoze operator and construction worker. He wanted to become an actor and signed a contract at 20th Century Fox and attended their dramatic school and eventually was given small character roles. He acquired the reputation as a beefcake, similar to Richard Egan. His first role was in 1956 On the Threshold of Space, starring Guy Madison. He then appeared in two westerns, The Proud Ones with Richard Widmark and The Last Wagon with Robert Ryan and Jeffrey Hunter, both in '56. He would go on to appear in a variety of genres, including crime films, westerns, and war films. In one of his final roles for Fox, he appeared in Elvis Presley's debut motion picture, Love Me Tender. Fox dropped Clark following that picture, and his roles in the following years were often in low-budget independent films. His most prominent role in American films came in 1958 when he was cast as Stew Pot in South Pacific, an adaptation of the Broadway musical. His vocals were dubbed by Thurl Ravenscroft, who is actually the voice of Tony the Tiger. During this period, Clark made many guest appearances on a variety of TV shows, including 4 appearances on Alfred Hitchcock Presents. In 1959, he made an unsold private investigator TV pilot for a William Campbell Galt-inspired mystery series entitled Brock Callahan, directed by Don Siegel and written by Sterling Silliphant. That same year, he made a guest appearance on an episode of the Western TV series Colt 45. During this period, Clark had the lead in Attack of the Giant Leeches in 1959 and 12 to the Moon in 1960. Unable to reach stardom in American films, he, like many other American actors, went to Italy, appearing in several sword and sandal films, spaghetti westerns, and Euro spy films, including The Son of Hercules in the Land of Darkness, starring fellow American actor Dan Vadas in 1963. In '65, Clark originated the role of secret agent Dick Mallory in the Agent 077 trilogy, modeled after James Bond. Ken struck up a friendship with American actor Dan Vadas, and both were big motorcycle enthusiasts and rode all over Europe for several years and motored annually to Panaloma, Spain for the running of the bulls. Ken appeared in 3 Euro westerns, the just covered Road to Fort Alamo in '64. In '66, he was in Savage Gringo as Nebraska Oringo, and in 1970, he had a short appearance in A Man Called Sledge as Floyd. Clark was married to Bette Blatt, whom he met when they were in high school. They had 3 children, Jerry Lee, born in '51, Tanya Joy, born in 55, and Stephen L., born in 75. They were divorced in 1980. I was made aware of Ken's death by Robert Woods, who told me Clark died of a heart attack in Rome, Italy on June 1st, 2009, 3 days before his 82nd birthday. He died shortly after taping a Stray Cult TV episode program covering the 1960s Eurospy genre. I'll post Ken's Westerns on YouTube and the Spaghetti podcast page on Facebook. Okay, moving along, we're going to talk about who are those guys. Okay, who are those guys? We're going to talk about Leo Anchóriz. The name probably won't be familiar, but the face sure will be. As far as I'm concerned, he's the Spanish Frank Wolf. Look at that face. Leo was born Mariano Leopardo de Anchóriz Fustel in Almería, Spain on September 22nd, 1929. His father, Roman de Anchóriz Andres, was a sea captain. Leo studied painting at the Academy of Fine Arts in Madrid and became a theater set designer before entering films in the late 1950s with Las Muchachas de Azul, The Girls in Blue, in 1957. I refer to him as the Spanish Frank Wolf, as the resemblance is uncanny. His rough, tough looks typecast him as a villain in the spaghetti western genre. He could show a comedic side when given the chance. He later moved into television, eventually hosting a quiz show, and abandoned acting altogether in the late 1970s, with a final appearance in the film short La Mentira in 1975. In all, Anchóriz appeared in some 40 films and TV appearances, and as a friend of Jose Maria Forqué and Jaime de Armifian, he collaborated on several films both as an actor and as a screenwriter. Anchóriz was married to Maria Callejon MacDonald, who was born in 1938. Apparently, she's still living. They were married in 65, and they stayed married until his death in 1987. He died from a heart attack on February 17th of that year at the age of 57. Some of his better known Euro Westerns are Finger on the Trigger in 65. He played Lieutenant Ed Bannister. Seven Guns from the McGregors in 65. He played Santillana. In 66, Up the McGregors, the sequel, he played Maltonado. In 69, he played in A Bullet for Sandoval. He played Friar or Father Converso. And his last spaghetti western in 1974, Cipolla Colt, or known here in the USA as Spaghetti Western, he played the sheriff. And that does it for Leo Anchóriz. Now we'll move on to the film of the week. Okay, film of the week is The Five-Man Army. Five-Man Army was called in Italy Un Esercito di Five Uomini, and it's a 69 Italian film. Producer is Italo Zingarelli. Director is Don Taylor, Italo Zingarelli, also Dario Argento. I'll get into that in a couple of minutes. Story and screenplay was by Dario Argento and Mark Richards. Cinematography was by Enzo Barboni. It's in Metrocolor and Delta Vision. Music is by Ennio Morricone. Running time is 107 minutes. Cast is The Dutchman, was played by Peter Graves. Masito or Panchito was played by Bud Spencer. Captain Nicholas was played by, Captain Nicholas Augustus Bennett was played by James Daly. Luis Dominguez was played by Nino Castelnuovo. Samurai by Tetsuro Tanba. A couple of familiar names is Maria, played by Daniela Giordano. This goes story-wise as a group of Mexican rebels hire the Dutchman, played by Peter Graves, to rob a train carrying $500,000 in gold. on behalf of Victoria Huerta to finance the Mexican Revolution. The Dutchman then enlists 4 other men to assist him, promising to pay them each $1,000. They are Masito, played by Bud Spencer, a strong man on the run for cattle rustling; Nuis, played by Nino Castelnuovo, a circus acrobat turned outlaw; Augustus, played by James Daly, a former Army officer and explosives specialist who had served in the same unit as the Dutchman; and a samurai warrior referred to only as Samurai, played by Tetsuro Tamba. Earning a living and a sideshow. When the job is successfully completed, the 4 recruits have different ideas on the money split, which they all thought to themselves each one would steal the entire amount, but the Dutchman is determined to keep his promise to the rebels. He disarms the other 4 and explains to them that his motivation for supporting the revolution is because his wife had been executed by soldiers since other members of her family were rebels. When the Dutchman is about to leave with the gold, he is stopped by the arrival of a mounted squad of soldiers. He therefore has to rely on the other 4, who are able to ambush and quickly kill all of the soldiers. Now armed again, Augustus, Masito, and Samurai seem set on taking back the gold, but they are stopped at gunpoint by Luis, who has decided that he will join the revolution too. At this point, hundreds of rebels arrive to collect the gold and treat the 5-man army like heroes. Augustus, Masito, and Samurai start laughing and acquiesce in the logic of the situation. The 5-man army is basically a Mission Impossible episode told spaghetti western style. Who else to lead the band of mercenaries than the actual star of the TV series, Peter Graves? The band first saved the rebel leader who hired them from being executed. After a thrilling rescue and pursuit by Mexican soldiers, they are hidden in a village of Mexican revolutionaries. This is one of those sit back, relax, grab a cerveza, enjoy the film. No political message other than revenge for a murdered family member by the Dutchman and monetary rewards for the other 4. The film moves quickly and is full of action and suspense. A nice Morricone score helps the film along. This is where we get into the directorship. Most references of the film mention Don Taylor as director, but over the years there have been rumors that bulk of the film was directed by either producer Italo Zingarelli or screenwriter Dario Argento. Graves and Spencer declared Taylor was the director, but according to Tetsuro Tamba and Daniela Giordana, Taylor abandoned the production after a few days. Surprise casting of James Daly as Captain Nicholas, as he never has been considered a Western actor to me, but he still fills the bill. Casting of Tetsuro Tamba followed the use of James Shigeta in 1968's Today We Killed, Tomorrow We Die, and was laying the groundwork for the upcoming mix of spaghetti westerns and kung fu films, as Shanghai Joe was still 4 years in the future. The train and hijack heist were well directed and executed, and the use of some of the cleverness, like waving dead soldiers, are convincing. All in all, it's well executed, as the train heist in The Wild Bunch is, where I think it was actually copied from. A couple of trivia points here. Bud Spencer's voice was not dubbed. That's his actual voice. Another thing is that Tetsuro Tamba was told to dress in Chinese clothes and hairstyle, which he vehemently refused to do. They pursued in dressing him that way, and he prepared to quit and leave the film and go back to Japan. They finally relented and allowed him to dress in the authentic Japanese attire. Mistakenly, it's said that the film was filmed in Spain, with many of the locations were in Italy, mostly at Cinecittà, Rome, and Viterbo. Thanks to Howard Hughes for giving me the exact location of the railway used in the film, which is in the Capranica-Viterbo line in Lazio, which is the Rome region of Italy. For more details, see Howard's article in Cinema Retro 2013, Volume 9, Issue 26, the one with straw dogs on the cover, where he covers the film and locations in detail. As far as actors' bios, Bud Spencer was previously covered in a special episode number 43, which Jay and I did on spaghetti westerns of Spencer and Hill. The Dutchman was played by Peter Graves. Peter Dwessler Arness, is spelled Aurness, was born on March 18, 1926, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He is the brother to TV's Gunsmoke Marshall Dillon James Arness. Graves appeared in more than 70 films, television shows, and TV movies during his career. He was featured in a key role in the 1953 World War II film Stalag 17. In 1955, Graves joined the NBC television series Fury as the rancher and adoptive single father Jim Newton, but is best remembered for his starring role as Jim Phelps on the hit TV series Mission Impossible from 66 to 73, and then the reprised version 88 to 90. He's also remembered fondly as Captain Clarence Over in the early 1980s comedies Airplane and Airplane 2, the sequel. Graves was married to Joan Endres in 1953, and they had 3 children. On March 14, 2010, Graves collapsed and died of a heart attack 4 days before his 84th birthday. The Five-Man Army was his only Euro Western. Next, we have Luis, played by Nino Castelnuovo. Francesco Nino Castelnuovo was born on October 28, 1936, in Lecco, Italy. Nino was an Italian stage, film, and television actor, best known for his starring role as Guy Faucher in the French musical film The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, 1964. He's also been recognized for his role of Armand in Camille 2069, directed by Radley Metzger. He appeared in 90 plus films and TV productions from 1956 until 2016. He died in Rome on September 6, 2021. He was 84. He may be best remembered by spaghetti Western fans for his other Euro Western, The Brute and the Beast, in 1966 with Franco Nero and George Hilton, where he played the psychopathic Jason Scott Jr. Then we have Captain Nicholas Augustus Bennett, played by James Daly. James Furman Daly was born on October 23, 1918 in Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. He was an American theater, film, and television actor who is perhaps best known for his role as Paul Lochner in the hospital drama series Medical Center with Chad Everett. James was married to actress Mary Hope Daly, who was born in 21. She died in 2009. And the father of actress Tyne Daly, born in 1946, who co-starred with Clint Eastwood in 1976, The Enforcer, as Inspector Kate Moore, and actor Tim Daly, born in 1956. Daly died on July 3, 1978, in Nyack, New York, of heart failure at the age of 59. Then we have Tetsuro Tamba. He was born in Tokyo, Japan on July 17, 1922. Tamba was introduced to Western audiences in the 61 film Bridge to the Sun. He also appeared in the 1964 film The Seventh Dawn, but is probably best known by audiences for his role as Tiger Tanaka in the 67 James Bond film You Only Live Twice. Tamba's son is Yoshitaka Tamba, born in 1955. Tetsuro died on September 24, 2006, in Tokyo at the age of 84 of pneumonia. Okay, now we want to turn to CD of the week. Let me grab a swallow of agua here. Okay, the CD of the week is the Five-Man Army. It's been released a couple of times on CD. Was originally released on LP. This is the LP. The LP goes back to 1969. It was released on Arietta, number ARLP 2009. Only had 8 tracks of music. It's got a nice value of anywhere from $45 to $182 compared on the its value is comparable to its condition. Then in 2007, a CD was released with the same cover, and it was released on Duse, D-U-S-E, label number ELP 58. It too only had 8 tracks of music. Its value is $12 to $58 depending on condition. The last CD was released in 2009 here in the United States by Rhino / Film Score Monthly. The number is volume 12, number 16. This one has 25 tracks of music, but it's in mono. Listening time is 60 minutes and 23 seconds, and it has a value of 25 minutes to $75. I'm sorry, $25 to $75 depending on condition. Okay, let's go to Tom's poster vault. We'll show you some posters. Okay, we've got some posters and some press books here. First one is the Belgium poster to Road to Fort Alamo. They call it, of course, Arizona Bill. Then I've got an American ad mat or copy of Road to Fort Alamo. These things are always cool. Sometimes that's all we could get, but they have the story synopsis in the back, and that's where we got most of our information, whether it was right or wrong. Then we go to the 5-man army. Here's a German full-page ad mat for it. Of course, it features Bud Spencer. And we have a couple of American ad mat advertising, 5-man army. Pictures of the cast. More adding on the back. This was more of a professional job here, bigger production value. This one folds out, gives bio information, more cutouts for newspaper advertising on the back. That's where we got a lot of information on the bios, although 50% of the time it was wrong. They just threw it in there as filler. And the last poster I've got for you is the American 5-man army poster. And that's it for posters. Now we'll turn to the weekly news. Okay, after a great start to the year with some great Blu-ray releases, it's come to a halt. We have no Blu-rays, no DVDs, no CDs, no books to talk about. All we've got is a Boot Hill section this week. First of all, we've probably all seen the news that Italian bombshell Gina Lollobrigida passed away. She was 95. She starred in films including Fan Fan La Tulipe, Beat the Devil, Trapeze, Buenos Aires, Mrs. Campbell. She died January 16th, 2023 in a Rome clinic. She was born Luigina Lollobrigida on July 4th, 1927 in Subiaco, Lazio, Italy. Modeling work in her youth led to participation in a series of beauty contests, and she placed third in the Miss Italy pageant of 1947. She made her feature film debut the year before with a small role in the Italian language Return of the Black Eagle. Lollobrigida played opposite Hollywood stars such as Humphrey Bogart, Rock Hudson, Burt Lancaster, Tony Curtis, and Frank Sinatra. She became one of the most recognizable cinema icons of the 1950s and 60s. She rivaled Sophia Loren, Marilyn Monroe, and Brigitte Bardot as the 50s and 60s divas. Gina was also an acclaimed photojournalist. She appeared in only one Euro Western as Alice or Alicia in 1971's Bad Man's River with Lee Van Cleef and James Mason. Then we have an unusual one here. Uh, Bubba Kikabidze, Georgian singer and actor who died on January 15, 2023 in Tbilisi, Georgia. He was 84. That's the country of Georgia in Russia. Besides being a veteran singer and songwriter, he's remembered for his acting roles, particularly in the much loved Soviet era comedy Mimino, in which he played a homesick Georgian pilot. He was born Vakhtang Kikabidze Konstantinovich on July 19, 1938, in Tbilisi, Republic of Georgia. He appeared in one Euro Western as Herzog in 1973's The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Then we have Gino Landi. He was an Italian choreographer, theater, and television director. Gino Landi died January 17, 2023 in Rome. He was 89 years old. Landi was a pseudonym for Luigi Gregori, and he was born in Milan on August 2, 1933. As a dancer, he began with Ermino Macario as a choreographer, but was also known as a director and writer for Barbara in 1980, Waterloo in 1970, and Roma in 1972. He was a choreographer on the Euro Western Try Another Try, A Providence in 1973 with Tomas Milian and Greg Palmer. Last but not least is Giorgio Mariuzzo, Italian director, assistant director, writer, and actor. He died in Rome on January 16th. He was 83. He was born in Venice on July 14th, 1939, and started his career as assistant director in 1968. And since the mid 70s, he started writing screenplays and also directed a number of films. He was best known for his collaboration with Lucio Fulci in the early 1980s. From 1985, he was mainly active on television. He wrote the story, screenplay, and directed under the alias George McRoots, the 1976 spaghetti western Apache Woman, starring Al Cliver and Clara Hopp. Okay, that will wrap it up for this week. Have a good week. We'll see you next week. And this has been a Roberto Genesi production. And until then, adios, amigos.